What is an invasive species, you ask? So an invasive species is an organism that causes ecological or economic harm in new environments where it's not native. Invasive species can harm both the natural resources in an ecosystem as well as threaten human use of these resources. An invasive species, they typically outcompete native species for food, reproduce quickly and uncontrollably, and dominate the ecosystem once they have become established. There are three main phases in the process of invasion, which is the first one's introduction, the second one's establishment, and the third one's expansion. So the introduction is when the invasive species is introduced to the area. The establishment is when the species starts to successfully reproduce in the area. And the expansion is when the species starts to spread in the area surrounding that area. Background information on the mussels. What is a mussel? So a mussel is a type of bivalve mollusk that can be found in freshwater lakes, streams, creeks, and along the salty intertidal zone where oceans meet the shores. Having a fish host is crucial to the reproductive cycle. How do the mussels reproduce? So basically, mussels have an unusual and complex mode of reproduction. During the process, they are a parasite on a fish. So during the breeding season, females lay eggs and brood them inside specialized chambers in their gills called marsupia. Males release sperm into the open water, which is then drawn into the females through their siphons. The sperm fertilizes the egg. Inside the female mussel, fertilized eggs develop into microscopic larvae known as glochidia. And this is where the fish host actually comes into play. So basically, the mussel needs to infect a host fish with the glochidia to complete the reproductive process. The method of the host infecting greatly varies among mussel species. Some mussels simply just release the glochidia into the water where they are haphazardly come into contact with the appropriate fish host as it swims by. The process is actually more intricate and direct with other species. Now on to what a mussel eats. So mussels are basically filter feeders. They feed on plankton and other microscopic sea creatures, which are also free floating in the seawater. A mussel draws water in through their in-current siphon, and then the wastewater is expelled through their excurrent siphon. Now, mussels actually play a key role in aquatic environments and are considered to be ecosystem engineers because they modify the aquatic habitat and making it more suitable for themselves and other organisms. Now, North America actually has the highest diversity of freshwater mussels in the world, but more than half of the 78 known species are classified as federally endangered, threatened, or state species of concerns. So basically, mussels play an important role in aquatic ecosystems. Many different kinds of wildlife eat mussels, including raccoons, otters, and other types of animals. Mussels filter water for food and thus are a purification system. They are usually present in groups called beds. Now, beds of mussels may range in size from smaller than a square foot to many acres.
Hi, my name is Erin Peterson, and for my part of this project, I will be introducing the zebra mollusk, and specifically what it is, how it feeds, and how it reproduces. So the zebra mollusk is a small freshwater bivalve mollusk. It's originally native to southern Russia and the Ukraine, and it was introduced to the United States via ships that brought it over accidentally or on purpose. Nobody really knows how it was introduced. They're a very small species. They only grow to about the size of your fingernail, so they don't really get that large, but they reproduce like mad. They reproduce thousands and thousands at a time, and it's just insane. They only live up to 4 to 5 years, so they don't really have a long lifespan, but they make up for that in numbers. They get their name, zebra mollusk, from the dark zebra-like marks on their shells. How zebra mollusks feed, they, like I said, being a bivalve mollusk, so they have two siphon tubes. They have an inhalant and an exhalant valve. The inhalant takes in the water and the exhalant breathes the water out. And during that process, when they bring in the water, they filter out what they eat, like organic matter and microscopic organisms, and then they just filter out the water. And they can filter up to 1 liter of water a day, which is pretty impressive for such a small animal. And how they reproduce is really incredible. So during the mating season, the females will lay eggs, and they will brood them inside their shells, in a special chamber that is inside their gills, actually. And it's called the marsupial, which is where we get marsupial from, because you brood the young in a small pouch or chamber. And during the mating season, the males will release sperm into the water, and the females, they will bring in the sperm through their siphons. So they'll actually breathe in the sperm through the water that they are bringing in through their siphons. And once they're fertilized, they will develop into these microscopic larvae that are called the glaucida. And in order to survive, these glaucida have to get out of the mother shell, and they have to find a host. So passing fish is the most likely target. And that's how they will successfully complete the reproduction process. And once they reach the juvenile stage, which are tiny, tiny little mollusk stage, they are excreted from the fish, and then they go about their lives and grow until they reach their maximum size, and then they're ready for sexual reproduction, and the whole cycle starts all over again. And approximately 40,000 to 100,000 eggs are laid per year in the mating season. And that's insane for such a small animal. And that's why it's such an invasive species, because they just reproduce like crazy. And there's just too many of them. So that is all for my portion, and on to the next person.
Hi, so now we're going to talk about how zebra mussels affect their environment. Zebra mussels do this thing called biofouling, and this basically means that they accumulate in large numbers on wet, solid surfaces. This is very damaging to whatever water structure or animal that they're doing this on. However, it is very beneficial for zebra mussels. They are basically able to piggyback off of each other's inhalant, and basically they do less work and use a lot less energy when they have to filter through the water for food. They affect other mussels because they outcompete for the food, the resources, and space. And when these zebra mussels biofoul on top of another mussel, if they become too heavy, this native mussel is not able to open and close its valves, which basically means that it's going to die off. They also affect other species. When they biofoul on a regular mussel, they might biofoul on a turtle or a crustacean. They could biofoul on a water tube for an oil company or a water company. And these different companies have to spend their own money on trying to regulate these zebra mussels. And as we have already discussed previously, the United States spends about $1 billion a year trying to regulate zebra mussels. Although they are small, they do come in large numbers, and they are very damaging to our environment and to the native mussels that we do have left in North America.
There are easy steps you can take to help prevent the spread of zebra mussels. It is important to thoroughly clean, dry, and drain your boat every time you take it out of the water. This includes any trailer that you use to transport it from place to place. Make sure that you don't move water of any kind from one body of water to another. This includes bait buckets, live wells, and anything else you may have contained in your vessel. Zebra mussel larvae are invisible to the naked eye, so just because you can't see them doesn't mean you're not transporting them. Doing your part, like following this simple routine, will drastically help reduce the spread of invasive species like the zebra mussels.